15 minutes. All right, so we'll come back at 4:02, okay?
Thank you, Ron.
All right, thank you.
All right. During the entire time you represented Ms. Hurd, did Mr. Depp ever interfere with your representation of Ms. Hurd?
No.
Did he ever ask you to do anything with respect to her career?
Not that I can recall.
Exhibit 17.
Now, Mr. Carino, this particular document was not produced by you. You'll see that at the bottom here. The date stamp indicates ALH. That means it was produced by Ms. Hurd. And this appears to be a text exchange between you and her. It's about a page and a half. If you could take the time to read it, and then I will ask you questions about it.
I read it.
And you'll see at the top, Mr. Carino, that it's dated July 14th, 2016. Based on that date and based on reading this text exchange, at this point in time, were you close friends with both Mr. Depp and Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
And having read the text exchange, do you believe this to be a true and correct representation of the exchange?
Yes.
And to be authentic in that regard?
Yes.
Now, you start the text exchange by indicating JD just surfaced. What is the JD reference?
Johnny Depp.
And she says, I saw Laurel yesterday. Who is Laurel?
Laurel's a therapist.
Do you know her full name?
Laurel Anderson.
Did you independently know Laurel?
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with Laurel seeing either Ms. Hurd or Mr. Depp?
Yes.
And can you explain that to me, please?
I introduced them all.
And what was the purpose of you introducing her to them?
They needed help.
And can you explain to me in more detail what you mean by that?
I think it was at a time where they needed somebody to help mediate the difficulties they were having.
And what do you mean by difficulties?
The strains on their relationship.
And in that regard, did you have conversations with Ms. Hurd about the state of her relationship with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
I'm trying to determine for how long a period of time did Ms. Hurd have conversations with you about the state of her relationship with Mr. Depp? Can you give me a time frame?
I would say she talked to me about the state of their relationship from the beginning until the end.
The entire time you knew her? I'm sorry, the entire time you considered her a friend?
Yes.
Okay. And how about Mr. Depp? Did you have conversations with him about the state of his relationship with Ms. Hurd?
Yes.
And were those ongoing during the entire time you were friends with him?
Yes.
You say they both confided in you in that regard?
Yes.
So back to this text exchange. Where my cursor is, Ms. Hurd says to you, yeah, she said that Johnny and I need to talk directly. Do you know who do you know who Ms. Hurd's referring to there?
Laurel.
That was your understanding after reading this?
Yes.
And then you ask her, do you want to do something tomorrow? She says, yeah. She says, IDP, I do. You say, ha, okay. And then you say, what is safe to do? Do you want to come to my place for dinner? What did you mean by what is safe to do?
It meant avoiding paparazzi.
Okay. And then she says, it's so fucked up. I just want to tell him that what they are telling him isn't true. What was your understanding of what she meant by that sentence?
I don't recall.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp physically abuse Ms. Hurd?
No.
Did Ms. Hurd ever tell you that she had been physically abused by Mr. Depp?
No.
Did Mr. Depp ever tell you that he had physically abused Ms. Hurd?
No.
Did you ever witness any injuries on Ms. Hurd that would indicate that she was physically abused?
No.
Now, again, this is a few months after the filing of the divorce papers and the TRO, and Ms. Hurd states to you, I'll call you right back, sorry. And you say, okay. She says, is it too late to call? And you say, just finishing dinner, we'll call you as soon as we walk out within 20. And she says, please tell him I love him. Is that an accurate reading of the text exchange so far?
Yes.
Do you know if at this time, based on your relationship with Ms. Hurd and Mr. Depp, whether Ms. Hurd wanted to reconcile with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
It's your understanding that she did?
Yes.
Did Ms. Hurd, based on your personal friendship with Ms. Hurd, close personal friendship with Ms. Hurd, would you say that she confided in you?
Yes.
And what about Mr. Depp?
Yes.
Mr. Carino, at some point in time, after Ms. Hurd filed those divorce papers in May of 2016, did she make any requests of you to intervene in the relationship between her and Mr. Depp?
What do you mean by intervene?
Let's start with assist in communications between the two.
Objection. Same objections.
Can you explain to me what transpired in that regard? Walk me through it.
At some point around that time, she wanted me to arrange for them to get together in person.
And what did you do after that was requested of you by Ms. Hurd?
I talked to Johnny about it.
What happened after that?
He was reluctant at first and then agreed.
And then what happened after that?
I mean, this is a long time ago, but I remember there was a fair amount of discussion about the TRO and how we would deal with that because nobody wanted Johnny accused of violating the TRO as an outcome of that meeting. And I don't remember exactly what we did, but Amber at some point warranted that she would never accuse him of violating the TRO to do the meeting, and I set the meeting up.
So just so I understand, you set the meeting up at the request of Ms. Hurd?
Objection
Yes.
is
And as part of you setting up, she told you that it didn't matter. I'm trying to understand what was the issue with respect to the TRO?
My understanding of a restraining order, at least at the time, was that he couldn't go within a certain distance of her.
Okay. And what was her suggestion with respect to that issue in connection with her wanting to meet with him?
She promised me and told me to relay to him that she would never accuse him of violating the restraining order as a result of agreeing to meet her. And I believe, but I don't recall exactly, there were conversations with both sides legally, I believe at the time, to make it transparent to everybody that this was happening.
Okay. And then what happened next?
I arranged the meeting. Johnny was in San Francisco on tour, and I arranged to borrow a friend's house, and Amber and I flew to San Francisco and drove to the house, and Johnny showed up a few hours later.
And did the two of them meet
Yes,
in the same room?
they sat outside.
Okay. How close to each other were they?
Inches away from each other.
And how long were they out there talking? For how long were they out there talking?
Several hours.
Did you, although you were out there, were you in a position where you could see them through a window or otherwise?
Yes.
At some point in time, the conversation ended, correct?
Correct.
And what happened after that?
I received a call or a text from Steve, whose house it was, and he notified me that he would be coming back to the house within the next hour or so. And I told Johnny and Amber, and we decided to rent a hotel room in San Francisco so that they could continue to talk.
And did that in fact happen?
objection.
And at some point in time, you left that house, correct, to go to San Francisco?
Yes.
And was it the three of you?
No. Johnny had security with him, and we talked about the fact that it wouldn't be a good idea for them to be seen together. So Johnny left with his security in his car, and I believe Amber and I took an Uber.
And what happened after that?
We all met at the hotel room.
And do you know what happened after that?
They started arguing.
And do you recall any details of the argument?
No.
And for how long was this argument had in a hotel room?
Yes.
Did you witness the entire discussion, or did you leave at some point?
I left the next morning at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning.
I'm dying of the night. We've been done without you. Do you love me? Do you still love me? I just wanted to touch you.
Really, after all the shit you just said?
I just wanted to give
After
you
all
a
this
hug.
shit you fucking accused me of, you
yes,
wanna touch me?
please stop me.
Fucking
Please stop.
fucking nuts.
Please, I just wanted to hug you and say bye. I didn't want to take it back.
Give you everything I could do. I did everything I could do to make you happy. It wasn't. You don't want to be happy.
I wanted you. I wanted you. I did. I wanted
Oh,
you.
you fucking love me. You don't fucking love me. Call it, write it off as a mistake. A mistake.
Would you like this?
Regret, get out.
I'm getting.
In this industry, all you've done, I can't clear.